This is part 1 of the audiobook. How to Quit Porn: The Holistic Approach, by Dr. David Smith. As a foreword, the author would like to provide you with a short commentary on why this book was published.
I have devoted many years to understanding the problem of pornography addiction, and I have been repeatedly surprised by seeing just how damaging it can be. There are painfully few resources and scientific studies available to understand the addiction and help on how to break free. Meanwhile, psychiatrists never seem to grasp that porn is the real problem for many of their patients, and are content to continue prescribing antidepressants, never actually helping cure them of their addiction. Parents do not realize how harmful porn viewing can be for their children as their minds develop. From my experience and research, I have seen that sexual addiction and other mental health issues originate from porn addiction. A large proportion of patients I see have mentioned their issues with pornography, and I can tell that many more have a problem but do not bring it up. Left unsolved, porn use can lead to increasingly severe depression or pent-up negative emotions. I am left frustrated by a medical industry that fails to realize how bad porn is and completely ignores the fact that porn use is not just a sign of mental illness, but rather the cause. This is a powerful message that needs to be spread. Never before have I felt so driven by a need to write, seeing how such a dangerous problem is so easily dismissed and commonly misunderstood by society. In putting together this book, I worked with a single-minded determination in crafting the best possible solution to help the millions of people dealing with a physically and mentally destructive addiction. Porn addiction is such a common yet complex problem that lacks any systematic method of recovery. I intend to change that, by writing this book to be the leading self-help resource for anyone dealing with porn addiction, offering simple and effective courses of action. Unfortunately, there is no easy panacea, no single course of action that acts as a universal cure. Recovery takes substantial effort from the individual and requires a coordinated effort on many fronts. But it's possible. The book is split into multiple sections. I start by addressing the porn addiction problem in its many aspects. My philosophy is that gaining an understanding of the problem and then breaking it down is one of the best ways to deal with something as complicated as addiction. This is necessary to help an addict make sense of their emotions. But if you are looking for immediate concrete advice and want to go straight to the steps, you can head over to section 2, though I would recommend eventually reading the book in its entirety, giving you a full understanding in order to quit successfully. I hope you can derive some inspiration and comfort from the advice I lay out. Meanwhile, I continue to write on this topic with the intent to publish more, and I welcome any feedback on what has and has not worked for you in this book. Please note that the book addresses many issues from a male perspective, as these are the large majority of applicable cases. We understand that anyone can struggle with porn and its negative effects.
Section 1. Addressing the problem. The following section lays out, in detail, the harmful aspects of pornography and why it should be the #1 priority to permanently remove porn from one's life. Understanding the effects porn has is key to rationalize quitting and will help make sense of the emotions that one has dealt with over the course of their addiction. What is porn addiction? Porn addiction is the compulsive behavior of watching pornography and obsession of sexual imagery, characterized by a loss of self-control and an inability to quit. An addiction to porn can compel one to act on their thoughts in real life and escalate in other unwanted ways. Porn substitutes, or P-subs, is content that is not typically characterized as porn but has the same effect on the mind, such as images or objects that contribute to or cause sexual arousal or obsession. These will be considered as equivalent to porn and equally harmful in this book. As a general rule, everyone should be able to go 90 days without porn, masturbation, or orgasm. If you are not able to, very likely you have an issue with porn addiction. If you're already feeling negative emotions on a regular basis and have trouble feeling well, or notice escalation in your viewing habits, take a step back as soon as you can to try and correct this. Keep in mind that negative effects occur gradually and with a lag after porn consumption. If you want a more precise gauge of your situation, there are more thorough tests to determine if you have an addiction. If you watch porn on a daily basis, realize that this is already a problem and help yourself immediately. But even if you are just an occasional viewer of porn and may not have grasped or experienced the severity of the problem, also make the decision to quit immediately. It can very easily escalate out of control. Know that people overwhelmingly underestimate the severity of their addiction until it becomes very bad and they suffer chronically. Many make the mistake of not realizing they are an addict, or making the connection between porn and their symptoms, until it is too late. Addiction severity also varies substantially between people. If some people say they are able to quit easily, they may have had a much less severe problem to begin with, and their recovery time might not apply to you. If you had an especially difficult situation, you may have tried repeatedly to quit without success, still spending hours each day consuming porn. But no matter how bad your circumstance is, you can and will recover. The following sections aim to help those dealing with all levels of severity in their addiction. Now it is time to delve into the negative effects that porn addiction can have on one's life. There is a long list of severe consequences to be aware of. Understanding the severity of porn's negative effects. The first myth to dispel is that porn is not fun, not even in the slightest bit, regardless of what anyone else says about it. Any marginal amount of viewing porn worsens the addiction and adds a slight bit of unhappiness to your life. When you realize how wasteful and dangerous the behavior is, and you feel it, you will not want to ever watch porn anymore. Many people do not realize the severity of the problem. Growing up, you may have been warned about the dangers of alcohol and drugs. These warnings and public health announcements have reduced the incidence of abuse. But porn as an epidemic is closer to the increasingly common harmful things like opioids and vaping, newer phenomenon that have taken off in unexpected ways, partially because in the past the potential magnitude of harm that these could bring about was not known. The question now is, why have we not been taught the dangers of porn in the same ways that we have for other things? First, porn seems innocent enough. You are not physically ingesting any substance like taking a drug, and this may lead one to draw the false conclusion that its use leads to no consequences on the body. Additionally, it is ubiquitous and not taken seriously. Many people joke about porn as something potentially shameful and embarrassing, yet not a harmful behavior. Only in the most recent years out of all human history, we've grown to assume that watching the sexual activities of others is a completely normalized and mainstream behavior. Older generations have had porn, and grew up fine, but what they experienced is nothing in comparison to what we have today. The stigma of buying magazines or entering video shops is no more. Grainy videos and still images have been replaced with something far more lifelike and addictive. Now there is limitless sexual content online, more than enough for an individual to spend thousands of lifetimes exploring unimaginable and unlimited variety. Add in the far greater accessibility and intensity of porn, faster internet speed, our habits to binge-watch content, and the more extreme, disturbing, violent, and over-the-top graphical content. But in complete contrast to the rapid and extreme nature of watching porn, the consequences creep up slowly over time. The negative effects from watching once are almost imperceptible, but these effects become something that is noticed with repeated consumption, eventually leading to a slippery slope where the negative effects of porn become intolerable, yet it seems there is no way to live without it. Why is porn so addictive? Porn takes the pleasures of sex, and amplifies and distorts them into a way that can be abused. It is widely available, free, and much easier to access than normal sex. It is especially problematic for youth, who may be curious, still not old enough to have normal sex, and unaware of the dangers that lie ahead. Additionally, porn has more novelty than sex. There are unlimited videos with new situations and actors every time. For many people, porn is a sticky web that can only be avoided with conscious awareness. Once seen, it cannot be undone. But for those that have already been exposed, Especially at a young age, this is not an option. The images are permanently etched into the mind. When combined with other harmful behaviors, porn can become much worse than it is alone. For example, when combined with drugs, it can develop additional associations and amplify the harmful effects. When someone who is already depressed watches porn, it only becomes more depressing and the person can't turn away as they are absorbed into a dark and twisted fantasy, whereas a happy person could be unaffected on this emotional level and close the tabs whenever they choose. A depressed mind will try to revisit the last time they felt a rush, and thus will end up seeking out more porn. Some people manage to stay casual users, and they will assume that others won't be addicted too. Obviously, people are different and not all users may have a very bad experience from it. But just like drugs, porn is bad, no matter what quantity it is used in. If you are a casual user, you may think the deleterious and severe negative impacts do not apply to you. Why should you care? First, for any bad vice, everyone starts out as just a casual user. Only with repeated use does the addiction escalate in severity and spiral out of control. This is especially true when it comes to porn, which may seem harmless initially. You may not realize how bad it is until you feel the consequences, which often increase gradually over time without causing alarm. When you suddenly realize you are addicted and powerless to resist the habit, it may be too late. The damage has been done and it becomes much more difficult to correct for later. It affects your mind, changes you on a subconscious level, and is ubiquitously considered harmful from those who have experienced it, though there has been a shocking lack of scientific studies and experiments on the topic to confirm what is already known. Trust me on this. No matter what level of porn consumption you are at, you will always be better off not watching anything. Such a common theme is that porn addicts are reluctant to give up what is familiar and has become part of the routine. The initial difficulties of quitting are nothing compared to the outcome for the remainder of your life. Any level of porn consumption will directly lead to a worse quality of life. Allegory of the cave. Take Plato's allegory of the cave, where a group of people have been chained in a cave their whole lives, watching only the shadows of others pass by on the walls. They view this as reality and never questioned what was outside of what they observed directly. They were unaware or deliberately deluded themselves into living in a false reality, watching life pass by. The allegory of the cave is surprisingly similar to porn addiction in all aspects. Porn addicts are in virtually the same circumstance, chained to a computer screen, watching only an image that lacks correspondence to reality. Watching pornography has become a false reality they have grown accustomed to living in, becoming too passive and weak-willed to seek out something better. But normal people don't perceive reality this way. Instead, they have a much freer and more fulfilling existence, where they are unable to be dragged down by the filth of porn and are completely uninterested in viewing it. You may be unaware what you are missing out on. For example, if you had childhood difficulties that led to porn use, you may have never experienced freedom and known what true love is like. Anyone who has experienced both can tell you with certainty that not being on porn will always be far, far better. If you've spent years watching porn and have grown accustomed to the behavior, you need to know what life is like without it. The moral of the story: you don't know what you are missing if you are content living a life where you even just watch porn occasionally. You don't know how much better it is to experience true love, and that is something you must seek out instead of this artificial substitute. Don't live your life shackled while staring at the wall in the cave, as that is what porn addicts do. They are literally unable to escape. You must make quitting porn the #1 priority in your life. At best, porn will give you a life of mediocrity, never able to achieve anything meaningful or find any satisfaction, wasting your life away staring at a screen, and at worst, it will condemn you to a lifetime of misery, chronically tired and bitter. Porn completely alters your perception of the world in a negative way. It can be hard initially to make the connection on your own that porn causes many of the problems you experience. The high of porn is immediate and comes in a quick rush, much easier to draw associations to than the consequences, which are only felt afterwards and spread out over much longer time periods. Don't attribute your problems to other sources, if in reality the main problem is porn. Focus on improving what is the root cause of your unhappiness and problems. Tackle these first. It's like trying to invest while having credit card debt. Because of the massive interest expense, it makes no sense to invest until you pay down the debt first. Similarly, you have to be clean from addiction to make progress in life. If you are not clean from addiction, you will never be able to feel good or experience benefits in other aspects of life. It's hard to enjoy life when you are sick. Rather than trying to improve your life with porn present, removing the negatives is a priority and must occur before you can experience the positives. Quitting porn and quitting all addictions is the single best thing you can do to completely change your life. Pay down your credit card debt and then you can start to invest and build your wealth. Now let's focus on discussing the symptoms and negative effects of porn use. First, realize that a porn addict situation presents the double whammy of watching porn and releasing. The act of watching porn is comparable to cocaine. There is a mental rush and stimulation that comes from just watching. This reduces cognitive function, the ability to feel pleasure, anhedonia, and is highly addictive. Then there is the act of releasing far too frequently, primed and encouraged by watching porn. This process is physically draining on the body. Realize that porn and masturbation can each lead to more of the other behavior. Porn encourages masturbation by sexually exciting the body and ends up in release. Meanwhile, masturbation leaves the body feeling weak and exhausted, which in turn likely encourages watching porn again to chase that high. Repeatedly engaging in porn and masturbation together deepens the connection of these two separate behaviors in the mind. And as this process repeats, the highs become far less pleasurable while this process becomes far more addictive. We will discuss major negative impacts caused by porn that you must know about. In the following pages, I will provide some especially strong and candid reasons why you should quit immediately, at all costs. Take these points very seriously as they are surprisingly pervasive among porn users. Effect number 1. Serious health consequences. It should come as no surprise that engaging in an addictive behavior will lead to health consequences. Excessive ejaculation can be especially harming, as it weakens one physically. Each act of release, to the human body, is the body preparing itself to produce a child. It takes the very best of your body, your own life essence, to produce a tiny bit of the precious fluid, which includes a dense concoction of vitamins and minerals, as well as sperm that took months to produce. Semen is something precious that should not be wasted. When lost, there is no magic way to bring it back besides giving it time. In fact, nothing is more damaging to mental health than an addiction. Some people falsely assume that since they are not putting something into their body, nothing actually happens. An orgasm is a flood of chemicals to the brain, artificially stimulating it. The release drains the body of its most valuable life energy. Chronically being drained of energies can be very destructive to the body. Excessive masturbation leads to depersonalization and derealization, identical to the symptoms of a drug addict. This is understandable, as porn affects the same regions of the brain as hard drugs. These symptoms are felt as a fog that slowly infiltrates the brain and makes it hard to think clearly. Initially, this occurs only after watching porn, but eventually becomes a chronic continuous state of fuzziness. Long-term, this causes a zombification of the mind, as one becomes more apathetic and passive towards what is around them, unable to achieve clarity of thought. A weakened mind is unable to stand up for itself nor take a stand for what is right. Porn makes it impossible for a human to realize their full potential. Instead, it results in a state of slavery, forcing addicts to spend their days constantly seeking a drug that can be produced in perpetuity, yet never satiates any cravings. Porn weakens its viewers physically. Excessive masturbation makes the body weaker and more vulnerable to other sicknesses. In addition to being mentally weakened and passive, one feels a constant lack of energy or strength, unable to feel strong or alive. Athletes are told to abstain from sexual activity before their matches. Many top athletes have said that they reject all sexual activity weeks before competition. Sexual activity is a biological goal, and once completed, motivation for other things decreases. Along with not having the fuzzy mind and tired body that occurs after sex, these factors make a big difference in any form of competition. Even masturbating once weakens the body slightly but noticeably, whereas an addiction never gives the body a chance to recover, which can be very harmful to health. We see erectile dysfunction medication now on every porn site. A problem that was once confined to the elderly and small parts of the population has become mainstream. Many people now only able to be aroused by intense pornography. For almost everyone who suffers from this, their condition has been induced from watching porn and would not have been the case otherwise. Knockoff pills online do not work and only try to profit from the suffering of others. When the issue is clearly porn, the only cure is to stop from porn and recover. Excessive stimulation has tired the body and made less stimulating content unarousing. Recovery will be achieved by following advice in this book and giving the body the time it needs. Symptoms of addiction to porn cannot be treated without addressing the root cause. Porn addiction results in a hodgepodge of random symptoms that don't have a clear source. Often this will be diagnosed as simply depression, always the lowest common denominator. Medical practitioners are content to treat symptoms rather than the cause. If you go to a mediocre psychiatrist and tell them about your problem, you will see that this is the case. They probably won't even tell you to quit watching porn, but they are happy to prescribe you antidepressants, which will not help the porn addict. Treating the symptom but not the cause will never solve the problem. Think about it. If you watch porn as your life passes by, obviously depression is a natural result. Your body is telling you that the behavior can't cut it. It requires changes to your unhappy lifestyle. If you take that depression and use it to quit, good job. But you don't want to sink into the depression further by escalating your destructive behavior as a response. What is seen in porn is permanently stuck in your memory and cannot be unseen. When you think about porn that you watched, you can recall it with vivid detail. Studies have shown that following porn consumption, the mind does not function properly, but becomes far more impulsive and irrational, incapable of precise or careful thought. There is a deterioration of memory and ability to learn following sexual stimulation. Longer term, this addiction may lead to borderline mental retardation. Developing minds must be especially careful of this fact. Porn can be correlated with other addictions as it primes the brain. Whether it be excessive internet use, alcohol consumption, or anything else, having multiple addictions makes each of the problems worse and harder to quit. Porn use changes the physical structure of the brain. It causes the brain to be more impulsive and pleasure-seeking, while diminishing the rational parts of the brain that moderate urges and facilitate rational thought. Often an addicted mind will seek out more instant gratification or temporary relief instead of making the seemingly harder right choices to change and go in a different direction, prioritizing the short term over the long term. If you have issues with being patient, this likely has been exacerbated by porn. Porn brews a chronic dissatisfaction, an inability to appreciate beauty, kindness, or goodness. When you are addicted, you feel pain more and are numb to happiness. There is no feeling of joy from small things, just a chronic numbness and discomfort. The body is languishing and not present in the moment. The mind slows and becomes a generic shadow of its former self. Those who are less sensitive may not even realize the subtle yet severe effects that porn is having on their mind. The slippery slope, the worsening of an addiction over time, applies to porn as well. People have become jaded and used to seeing such extreme acts and massive quantities of porn that normal sexual activity is not arousing to them. This ends up only further entrenching one in the dark and artificial world of porn. This takes us to the topic of escalation. Effect number 2: escalation of the addiction. Escalation can take on many forms but will always drag an addict down a slippery slope. Escalation can be into more extreme genres and time spent watching porn, as the brain tries to get the same high it experienced before. Or it can be a questioning of sexuality. There is an abundance of situations where straight people think they might be gay, or gay people think they might be straight, contrary to their nature, because of what they have watched and the ways that they have been influenced. The only solution to get back your sexuality is to completely abstain from porn and give it time for your mind to recover to your default state, whatever that might be. Escalation is especially dangerous because it happens gradually without awareness. The brain knows no boundaries when it comes to an addiction like porn. This results in watching porn more and more times a day, losing track of time and self-control, having multiple tabs open, watching one video for a few seconds before seeking out different, usually more novel, content. Eventually, the chasing of the high becomes far more arousing than the porn itself. By this point, porn that initially was repulsive would now be considered normal. Keep in mind that there really is no such thing as normal porn. As you become unable to find joy in other things throughout your life, and your brain becomes numbed and unable to think clearly, it is susceptible to seek out more extreme content. So many addicts are unaware of how they are escalating in the moment. After watching porn multiple times a day, you begin to notice that porn infiltrates into real life. The line between what is and what isn't porn becomes blurred. Sexual thoughts begin to take over from normal mental functioning. This becomes all-consuming. The worst feeling is when it seems that your entire life and world around you is just porn. Everything else becomes less interesting, the body loses its vitality, and anything that was once joyful now becomes difficult to extract any pleasure from, or even becomes burdensome. Yet there is no end in sight to sexual urges. These consequences happen gradually. You might not be aware until it's too late. After several years of just getting through life without addressing the addiction, you may find things getting much worse. On the topic of fetishes. Fetishes may be created or worsened from watching porn. These can be extremely unhealthy and difficult to recover from. These artificial fetishes may encourage an addict to keep watching. Realize that some are natural, and others are induced by porn. The natural ones are harmless enough. These are ones that you were born with, that have been with you before consuming porn and will be with you even after you quit porn. The ones that need to go are those that are caused by porn. These can be destructive and escalate to be much worse, even though they are only based on illusions and false beliefs. Though a natural fetish may have contributed to porn addiction in the first place, realize that the fetish in itself is not bad. It helps keep sex interesting, and if controlled properly, should not lead to an obsession. Many fetishes are extremely common but not discussed. If you have any fetishes, you are definitely not alone, so don't let this bother you. The goal is to get rid of porn-induced fetishes, which are more extreme than the natural ones that you were born with. Over time, these will go away, though anything that you were born with will probably remain. Ultimately, by acting under the influence of porn, you can do things that make yourself truly unhappy. The questioning of sexuality is a destructive effect of porn. Studies have shown that sexual preferences are conditioned over time, as a response to what causes orgasm. Following puberty, you will know how you feel. Don't ever let porn make you question what you hold dear. Not acting on fetishes will weaken them dramatically to the point where they do not affect your life. Effect number 3. Hateful nature and personality changes. Porn is based on hate. There is no love, no hugs, kisses, smiles, or intimacy. When you get separated far enough from porn, it becomes extremely apparent how twisted that really is. The content becomes disturbing and very unappealing when you view it from a normal rational lens. There is nothing to be desired. Biologically, porn can lead to feelings of unworthiness and hate for the other. Porn perpetuates untrue stereotypes and falsehoods, spreading hate inside of you. Some of the content may be more direct at conveying negative emotions to you and can be especially destructive to your emotional health. Never wallow in negativity. This kind of sick content is surprisingly addictive and dangerous. Repeated watching of this dark content makes the personality hateful and less empathetic. It strengthens negative emotions such as jealousy, distrust, cynicism, and apathy. Any sincere human connection is lost. Gradually, faith in humanity is diminished as porn replaces reality. The images develop a force of their own, so much so that addicts prefer the images and are no longer interested in being around others. The resulting lack of socialization and connection leads to a much deeper unhappiness. For those who have had a particularly bad experience, this can result in severe addiction, self-harming, suicide, and committing sexual crimes. Watching porn and avoiding any mental health illnesses or perverted thoughts would be surprising and require an unusually stable brain. Having porn in one's life gives it the possibility to surge in intensity when one isn't feeling well. There is no way to overstate the severity of the problem, and only the naive will underestimate it. The aggregation of harmful individual experiences results in a large social impact. Continued pornography consumption at the current rate will lead to the degradation and long-term downfall of society. Historically, excessive sexual indulgence has been seen to precede the fall of civilizations. We are at a precipice, a critical juncture where our choices affect how the future will unfold. Individuals addicted to porn exhibit decreased productivity at work, a slowness of mind, and depression, all of which are incredibly costly for society as a whole. Porn acts like a pollution that accumulates in the air and destroys the ability of our brains to naturally function. Unquestionably, there is a causal relationship between porn and the rise of mental illness. A society made up of weakened people from porn is unable to make progress. Currently we see a high divorce rate, more social dysfunction and hate, all of which should be directed back to the root cause, porn, but ends up being scapegoated on so many other things. We are creating divides between each other, but in reality, all these falsehoods have been worsened by porn, the true enemy of mankind. Throughout history, sexual health has been stressed. Only recently has the ubiquitous nature of porn shattered all of this. Lust has been considered a vice, and abstinence was prioritized. Know that even though porn is pervasive, that does not make it okay. Don't be a trend follower or assume it must be okay because so many people are watching it. Sex is made for you to be an active participant and get a mutual connection out of it. Instead, porn takes advantage of your genuine feelings and spins it into a web that ensnares you. It spreads negativity, cruelty, and animalistic behavior, bringing out the worst in humanity. It is designed to give a twisted pleasure from watching it, and viewers begin to internalize it and incorporate it into their own personality. Viewing porn is incredibly demoralizing and doesn't even come close to what a sexual experience should be like, though it acts as a substitute. It takes away a genuine interest in sex because of a lack of emotional satisfaction, diminishing motivation when it comes to getting sex and ultimately achieving life outcomes, only encouraging the pursuit of more porn instead. While sex was supposed to help with emotional bonding and start a family, porn does the opposite. It weakens our own self-image, breeds hate, and holds others to an unrealistic standard, creating an epidemic of mental health dysfunction. Effect number 4. Has a visible negative effect on the body. Over time, porn will make an individual become unattractive. It is a certainty that you will look the way you feel. Those who have watched too much porn will experience hair loss, muscle weakness, shortness of breath, and generally look less healthy than they should. The female sex is keen on perceiving the sexual energy and state of males. You convey your sexual history through the way you act, talk, and look. A fire in the eyes is lost with porn. You can see that so many people are going around in their lives not fully present. Those who have truly suffered and have not recovered from addiction have an empty look in their eyes. On your face, you display the true nature of your thoughts, like whether you are a good person or not. There is something on the porn addict's face that can't be washed away. You can observe in your own appearance that after a meaningful time away from porn and masturbation, you look healthier and better. Porn ages your body in a noticeable way, just like a drug addiction. Over time, the appearance of the porn viewer and normal person diverges, and it becomes much more obvious just looking at one's appearance. Similar to how a penis shrivels up after a long period of excessive porn stimulation, one's face and body lose their tight and healthy structure. An argument can be made that semen retention is the key to stay youthful and vibrant for males. Aside from the visual aspects, porn contributes to headaches, as well as chronic physical and mental pain. Anecdotally, there are far more consequences, including acne, thyroid, and sleep problems. A worsened physical appearance is exacerbated by the worsened social skills that porn causes. Porn causes one to lose proper mental functioning, to the point where it can be hard to hold a conversation. It can be hard to come up with something to say or make eye contact. Your body has been told that there is literally no need to be socially skilled to be able to get sex. Females are very good at sensing sexual health and energy, which is a large component of attraction, probably more important than just physical appearance. Effect number 5. Porn wastes so much time. Literally, porn can waste your entire life. And all that time is spent in a terrible way. In fact, probably the worst possible way. Older addicts have literally spent years of their life watching porn. If you were to watch 2 hours a day from your teenage years, just do some back-of-the-envelope math and think about how much time that is. By their late 20s, an addict who started watching porn in their adolescent years, which is very common, has already spent a year of their life watching porn, probably with over 1,000 orgasms. In a lifetime, several years would have been wasted just watching porn. This is completely unnatural. Never before in human history have people just wasted their seed like this and been so lonely. If you are free from porn, you will be able to be happy, which in turn will let you have healthy sexual relationships, feel more energetic, attract more friends, have a better future, and make you even more happy. These good things only lead to more good, a powerful positive feedback loop. The exact same thing happens in the negative direction. Make your choice. This may be the most significant decision of your life. Quitting makes such a noticeable difference. Especially over long periods of time, the benefits accumulate. If every day you can become just 1% happier, you will hardly be able to recognize your future from where you are today, as it becomes far better than you can imagine. But if every day you become 1% more miserable, after a few years your life becomes a disaster. Just like many things in life, money, exercise, friends, etc., your sexual behavior compounds. Good brings more good and bad brings more bad. Think about what effect this will have on your mental health, your physical health, focus, mood, energy, and so much more. The worst mistake, if your addiction is not severe, is to underestimate how bad the problem can be. Watching porn can literally lead to insanity. Many people will take a few years before they are aware of the extent of the problem or acknowledge that they have a problem at all. During this time, addiction will worsen. If the bad habit is not stopped, it will continue building neural pathways that change the way you think and act. Don't waste any time. Quit now. Effect number 6. Chronic addiction to porn leads to increasingly severe symptoms. Prevent kindling at all costs. Some more moderate users may find it relatively easy to quit on their first attempt. Then they will slip back into their old habits. But when they try to quit again, they will find it more difficult, and that each subsequent attempt takes longer and feels like less has been achieved. This is an incredibly painful state of purgatory, of never being fully clean and always feeling the effects of addiction, that they will have to suffer with for the rest of their lives. Many porn addicts do not even realize that the hodgepodge of random negative symptoms and sufferings are caused by porn, and they further descend into the addiction to numb themselves from the discomfort. Don't let this be you. And if it is you, wake up to the truth. The relationship between porn and not feeling well becomes clearer over time. Trust me on this. You need to make a permanent decision to quit and never go back. The key takeaway: you need to make a clear connection between these negative effects and porn addiction. This is no joke or laughing matter. The reality is that watching porn directly causes these negative effects. The reason it may be difficult to see is that the change is gradual and comes with a lag. Take this problem seriously and quit immediately and completely. It is so frustrating to see some people say that there is no link between porn and other things. People say that it can improve relationships, lead to sexual liberation, or let people learn more about sex. Nothing can be further from the truth. It ruins attraction, the innocence of the mind, the health of the body. It is such a destructive behavior on every level. No one seems to connect the rise of porn with the rise of mental health conditions, or increased rates of suicide. No one thought to equate porn with drug addiction, even though they have a similar effect on the mind. Maybe today's youth aren't lazy, maybe it's the porn. Instead of criticizing the millennials, we should help them. Porn has a way of dividing us. We see the other and grow to dislike them. The shootings, the hate, the social problems we see. Porn plays a role in all of these problems, maybe directly or indirectly. It further worsens the mental health of the disturbed. Serious discussions of sexuality are non-existent, causing people to pretend that the problem doesn't exist. Porn and sexual addiction remains a taboo that people try to dismiss, citing the lack of scientific evidence or misguidedly thinking that people use addiction as an excuse for their behaviors. This is impossible to test with a controlled experiment, but there is real suffering. Porn is obviously an unnatural influence on behavior. Religions and philosophies have known for thousands of years that sexual activity should be controlled and that an excess could cause serious damage to the body. But in our hyper-sexualized culture, where sex is monetized to sell anything, we've normalized this incredibly depressing, wasteful, and unnatural behavior. There is far more social commentary I can offer that is outside the scope of this book. Porn websites have the most traffic in the world. Yet they should be banned. Porn is something so dangerous, far worse than many things that are already illegal. The content on these sites is sick, perverted, cruel, and borderline illegal. It is antithetical to everything we value, as it overwhelmingly objectifies and hates on women. When uncontrolled, it leads to the degeneration of the society and the individual. All of it is in complete disregard for humanity of the people in the video and for people watching. It profits off of the suffering of multiple parties. Pure poison to the mind. A powerful drug that hits you on such a fundamental level and forever burns its images into your mind. Addiction leads to a change in the brain's perception of reality. Everything you sense has been altered from what it would normally be perceived as, since your brain now processes all sensory information in a much more unfavorable way. When you are miserable, you feel joy less and you feel pain more severely. The good things have been dulled and the brain has been numbed from such extreme stimuli that it is unable to find joy in the simple and everyday things that healthy people would derive pleasure from. That is precisely why addicts are unable to feel comfortable, always cold or hot, easily irritated by small things that normal people would easily dismiss. The danger for the addict is not recognizing this change in themselves, as well as forgetting how much better things were perceived before the addiction. Artificially drowning the brain in pleasure ultimately numbs the brain and makes it impossible to feel happy in the long run, making it impossible to reach what you seek out. Happiness is a strange thing that must be pursued in an indirect fashion. Porn will direct you away from happiness, taking away all your dreams and condemning you to a life of miserable mediocrity. The rush of porn is an artificial feeling that feels very different from any true contentment or happiness. It has the same characteristics to the empty high of drugs, for example. If you think critically about how you feel when you are on porn or drugs, you are not happy at all. The realization that this is only a temporary occurrence of dopamine, and that soon reality will hit once you've sobered up, is a pain that can be overwhelming. Porn addiction does not discriminate, it will affect everyone, because sex is such a fundamental human need. Know that no matter who you are, you might be vulnerable. Just look around you. You can see addiction on the faces of people. Those who watch porn are depressed, completely depleted of energy and dragging themselves aimlessly from one task to another. There is no way the most successful, strongest, or energetic people watch porn. It is impossible. Semen is your life energy, your creative force. Once it is gone, it cannot be retrieved. The consequences of wasting semen include a numbness in the mind, inability to focus, diminished intellectual capacity, and a lack of sensitivity, replaced with negative thoughts, resentment, and physical discomfort. Complex and non-linear thinking become near impossible. You lose your creativity and joy.
Once there was a gardener. He spent all his time, energy and wealth in developing a floral garden. In the garden, varieties of multicolored flowers were grown. He gathered the flowers and extracted a wonderful perfume. And what did he do next? He poured the perfume into a sewer. Don't you think that only the gardener is foolish? Most of us are like the stupid gardener. The semen accumulated in the body over a period of 15 to 20 years up to our early youth, plus what we go on collecting in cycles of 30 to 40 days that could have been transmuted into oyas to give bodily strength, vigor and radiance, is dissipated for enjoying fleeting sexual gratification.
Quote from The Secret of Eternal Youth. Semen is worth more than its weight in gold. It is the most valuable substance that exists. It takes months of hard work by your body to produce, summoning forward the best of your body, everything that is needed to produce a child. Treat it with care. The great philosophers in history understood the importance of preserving this valuable fluid. Discharge of the fluid would require rituals to cleanse the body. Aristotle stated that sperm is the most perfect component of our food, requiring a nourished and strong body to transform blood into semen. And in Chinese medicine, a drop of semen is equal to 10 drops of blood. Please take this problem seriously. These fundamental habits are ingrained in a much deeper way than most people can possibly imagine. Sexual preferences and conditioned tastes are hard to change. They have been lodged deep in your brain and take time to return to a natural state. Do not be complacent. If you don't realize how bad porn is or haven't experienced it yourself, think again. Long-term porn causes the inability to feel happiness or love. It changes the physical structure of the malleable mind. For many people, by the time they realize that porn is bad for them, they are addicted and can't stop themselves from repeatedly coming back to it. Let all of that sink in. You truly hate, loathe, and despise the filth that is called porn. You really don't want to ever watch this filth again. It's extremely unenjoyable, miserable, 1,000 times worse than being chained to your seat and forced to watch a terrible movie you've seen a dozen times already. All you want is something better, but you don't know how to realize it yet, so you're stuck with an evil and disgusting knockoff that has no semblance to what you truly want. I'll tell you exactly what to do. Look forward to your new life without porn. Think about just watching dumb images online and why you would even put yourself in such a position. It's not because you enjoy it. It's because you get a momentary urge to drag yourself back to bad behaviors. The only reason you have that urge in the first place is because you watched porn in the past. Look forward to conquering that urge. It's all about attitude. Your identity changes the moment you decide to quit. You have ascended to a higher being. From this moment forward, you are now a person who does not watch porn. This is now part of your permanent nature, and thus you have no reason to even take a peek. Think about the young guy, sitting alone in a dark room, huddled over his computer, spending hours being bombarded by videos and images, unable to escape even though inside he desperately wants to. He seeks companionship but finds no empathy at all, the bright screen of the computer coldly staring back at him. He is an outsider watching in. He sweats and trembles, before finally getting the empty rush he madly craved, each time weaker and less satisfying than the last, but nonetheless reinforcing his destructive behavior. Hours later, he is still exhausted and depressed. There was not even the slightest bit of satisfaction. This all being a complete waste, he made no connection with anyone he cared about, nor did he have any hopes of producing a child. The experience leaves him shattered with regret and self-loathing, passive and weakened. He thinks that he could have made something of himself, cultivating his talents, doing something he enjoyed, spending time with friends and family, and being with the girl that he loved. Now he has no better future to look forward to, and even though he tells himself that he will quit, he knows that nevertheless this cycle will repeat again the next day. He is upset but too tired to do anything about it. Completely drained and truly lost, he begins slowly drifting off to sleep, hopelessly knowing each following day will bring no better future for himself. Wake up, get out of the cycle. Isn't it 100% clear that this isn't the way to live life? This is utterly depressing. Something completely unnatural has ruined the way we think and live. Good riddance to it at once. Why is self-destruction enjoyable in any way? Why should we do something that leads to our own suffering and the suffering of others? Why do we let others rejoice in our misfortune? It is time to rise above. Take back what is rightfully ours. We will create a better future for ourselves and our children. Use the benefits of our society while rejecting the evils of modernity. The time is now, and together we will succeed. In the past, great men were visionaries, capable of brilliance, creation, leadership, and strength. Pornography has emasculated countless men to become a shadow of themselves, unable to enjoy life or contribute to anything. We need to defeat porn to bring back greatness. Start by changing yourself, and you will change the world. Outsmarting the problem. Be ready for the problem to be a step ahead of you at the beginning. Addiction can trick your brain into thinking differently in the moment or finding a way to justify a relapse. Like a Trojan horse, you may think that finally you conquered the addiction and let your guard down, only to find that the dormant addiction was far more powerful than you thought. Just as water always seems to find a leak out of a broken hose, the addiction seems to find an outlet even as you try to block it off. Quickly adapt and learn from any mistake. Take a firm stance to be prepared for the irrationality of your mind during difficult moments. An understanding of psychology and philosophy is necessary. You have to understand how your mind works in order to outsmart the problem and find a way out. As a general rule in life, the law of attraction applies. What you put out, you will take in. Porn addiction leads to suffering in the present and more suffering in the future. Just like when you have money, it is easy to make more money. When you have friends, it is easier to make more friends through friends of friends, going out more, etc. It is easy to attract more of what you already have. This law of attraction applies to many things in life, such as addiction. For example, watching porn only makes you want to watch more. Quitting porn will make a difference in your life outcome, period. You can choose what to do at this critical juncture. If you do not seize this opportunity to better yourself, later in life you will find yourself stuck, forced to live a lifetime of regret. Many older people, who now realize the extent of the problem, wish that they had quit far sooner.
There is a tide in the affairs of men, which, taken at the flood, leads on to fortune. Emitted, all the voyage of their life is bound in shallows and in miseries. On such a full sea are we now afloat, and we must take the current when it serves, or lose our ventures.
Quote by Shakespeare, from Julius Caesar. The time to act is now. There will be no better time. You have never been older or more experienced. Take all that you've learned and suffered through to make the change. Also, you will never be this young again. Maximize the good time you have ahead of you by quitting this very moment, and let the past go. Don't worry about the past, when you didn't understand the problem. Throughout this book, we will understand these issues from a scientific and psychological perspective. First, know that edging, the act of watching porn and delaying the release, is terrible. This is the absolute worst thing that can possibly be done. It makes the addiction more severe and harder to quit. Don't be tricked into thinking this is a healthier substitute. Also, you need to understand that the only option is to quit completely. Never watch porn again. Don't find substitutes. The addiction will try to find an outlet and you cannot let it. Know that there is no middle way. Once you go back and start watching porn, it is very difficult to stop. Just briefly priming your brain can destroy your progress. Quitting porn will not take away the twisted appeal it has to your brain. The only way to quit is to never take a peek again. The hurdle to doing something the first time is the greatest. It is impossible to control an addiction by letting yourself do it just one more time. It becomes harder to take a stand against each marginal occurrence. If you are already an addict, it is impossible to go back to consuming something in a state of moderation. Cold turkey is the only way. Don't think of this process of decisively quitting as trying to suppress sexual thoughts. Rather, think about channeling them into a higher energy of the mind, body, and spirit. Your sexual energy dictates your life outcomes. Eat, sleep, and exercise to build your sexual health as much as possible. Those who are successful and happy are not weighed down by obsession or always craving something. Remember, you aren't giving up anything good when you stop watching porn. The obsession will go away. Addiction is an unnatural state, therefore it will go away with time. Freedom is a far better place to be. Quit any other addictions you may have. When you quit porn, take advantage of the situation to get rid of any other addictive behaviors that you have. Quitting porn will give you momentum and strength to live your life to the fullest. Get rid of alcohol, drugs, caffeine, gaming, social media, internet, TV, junk food, all the bad things in life that are holding you down. Do not substitute from porn into anything else. If you do so, you are not recovering from anything. Take advantage of this opportunity to transform your life around in the best way possible. If you are dealing with any other addictions, quit them immediately. Very likely you will have some symptoms of post-addiction withdrawal syndrome. Enjoy feeling the full force of withdrawal symptoms. This is progress. The more that you are feeling, the greater the change the body is undergoing to adapt to a clean lifestyle. Know that all uncomfortable symptoms are temporary and are necessary to achieve a better life, like a butterfly emerging from a cocoon. Permanently shed your old life as a caterpillar behind, as there is a much greater future destined for you. As you read this book, keep in mind that even though this book is geared to the porn addict, much of the advice in this book can be applied to any addiction. The goal is to achieve a holistic recovery and make your life better. To do so, please take all your energies and use everything you know to quit all addictions permanently. With porn, the symptoms stem from two causes. One is the inability to feel pleasure because of the addiction. This is due to overstimulation of the brain while watching porn, caused by the flood of chemicals like dopamine for hours in the brain. The other cause is the loss of semen itself. Semen is a vital part of one's life force, and when drained from the body excessively, can be masked in the form of seemingly chronic health problems, like fatigue. When you feel worse, you are more desperate to seek out something that may make you feel better. A normal person who does not suffer will not find porn as appealing or be compelled by it. If you do not feel well and live in a negative state of perception, you are more likely to reach out for porn. This is a harmful feedback cycle, as the negative effects caused by porn will encourage you to seek out more porn. Be cognizant of this fact. Rationalize that the desire to watch porn is self-destructive and unnatural. This will help you overpower these bad urges. Clear thinking is one of the most valuable things you can have, which people take for granted. You don't appreciate how valuable it is until it is gone. Being on porn is mentally equivalent to always being on drugs. In the long run, you will lose your ability to be attracted to another person, and you will lose your energy. Once you get to this state, there is nothing but regret. Porn affects you on a subconscious level. It puts certain thoughts in your mind, most often thoughts of unworthiness, being submissive, etc. Think carefully about how you have been brainwashed and actively fight to do the opposite. Relish in taking control of your mind. Focus your energies to get what you want in real life, instead of mindlessly engaging in self-destruction online. Others benefit from your wasted time and weakened state. Don't fall for this trap. Actively fight against this brainwashing. Understand the wastefulness of the situation. Porn has been built on the idea of finding a female that you can't have. Fundamentally, it is incredibly discouraging, passive, and unhealthy. Morally, it is wrong, cheating on others, and violating their sanctity. You are trying to take pleasure from what is not yours. With porn, there is never a satisfaction or end to the cravings. From this, you know it is an addiction. You can never be satisfied. You only want more. This makes it impossible to be happy. You never look on your past experiences watching porn with fondness. It's guaranteed to lead to an escalation in an unwanted way. This is so different from a true relationship that is tinted with love and happiness. Consider the issue of porn addiction from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When we think of the most fundamental human needs, we think of food, water, air, and shelter. Sex has been a higher pillar, considered to be important once basic survival needs are met. Finally, at the top of the pyramid, you have self-actualization. Porn makes it impossible to meet your sexual needs, as it creates a chronic state of never being satisfied. With porn, you will never be able to meet your sexual needs, thus you will never be able to achieve a state of self-actualization. If you think critically about what you need to not have in your life, one important need is the lack of pain. You need to be not miserable, so you have to get rid of porn. When you quit porn, and then make something of your life, you will be on top of the world. Realize that society won't save you, it's in your own hands. On the whole, doctors and psychiatrists have overlooked the problem. Porn profits from your misery. Ads on porn websites showcase all of the problems. They advertise more porn websites or erectile dysfunction medication. Clearly, they are trying to target a specific person for their product. The whole system is designed to benefit from keeping you hooked. Many practitioners are aware of this issue but do not treat it. Insufficient research has been done on the topic and much of what they hear is anecdotal. Porn and sexual addiction is not a diagnosis in the DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, even though it is much more prevalent than most of the conditions presented. Many doctors, especially those who have not seen it firsthand, are not aware of the extent or severity of porn addiction. After helping patients through years of recovering, I know how difficult it can be. After the process, I can see that recovery has helped significantly with turning around the lives of patients, many of whom didn't even realize that many of their problems stemmed from a porn addiction. Porn sites rely on clever algorithms when recommending videos to maximize your time spent on their site. They deliberately display content that does not correspond directly with your tastes, but instead choose to show increasing doses of novelty, content that encourage tastes to branch out to view more material, usually more extreme than what was previously viewed. Gradually, the defenses are lowered, and viewers are able to get conditioned to material that otherwise was not arousing to them. The hooking power of mixing desirable content alongside previously unarousing content serves to increase the amount of time users spend browsing for new content. Algorithms will only continue to maximize watch time and addiction, so be very aware what these sites are trying to do. The future will be increasingly hostile and destructive to men and youth. Virtual reality porn is already being developed and will make porn harder than ever to quit. In recent years, porn has increased in its intensity, going from magazine to video form. Stranger forms of video porn such as hypnosis have made porn more damaging and addictive. The future of VR porn will further ensnare unsuspecting people, submerging them deeper into a dark and twisted artificial reality. Porn is the equivalent of a nuclear weapon and can be weaponized to weaken an entire populace. There are examples of governments using porn to weaken opponent populations. Porn is able to keep you weak and in line. This ultimately aggregates to the level of the entire population, creating sheep that accept whatever they are told and become easy to control. Do your part, quit now and encourage others to quit too. Don't be a weak-minded passive fool. Be a strong leader and take a stand against the evil forces. The reality is, change or be changed. It is a certainty that this problem will get worse in society before it gets better. Understanding the time frame. When people become fully aware that porn has been responsible for many of the mental and physical discomforts that have plagued them for years, they will desire a quick fix to reverse what has happened. But the desire for a quick fix will be unable to solve a problem that has brewed for years. Realize that recovery is not instantaneous, but a gradual process. The only permanent, healthy, and sustainable solution is patience. For almost all people, the only solution to treat the consequences from addiction is a long period of abstinence, giving the body sufficient time to recover. People often want a timeline. A general rule of thumb is around 2 months of recovery for every year of addiction. For many people, it can take upwards of a year to fully recover. Occasional slip-ups may be part of the road to recovery, causing recovery to take even longer. Thus, patience is an important trait to have, and if you don't have it, you will build it by going through the process. If you are able to stay clean for 90 days, you will notice significant results. Getting long continual streaks will give you a taste of what normalcy feels like. Addicts live in a constant state of low energy. The gas tank is always close to empty. They are always drained, since they release once they have enough to release. Emotionally, they are also a shell, having used porn to numb their feelings for so long. They are a bag floating in the wind, as their life is dominated by repetitive cycles of sudden obsessions followed by regret after the fact. Porn has a strange way of appealing to those with low energy and those who are going through challenging times, but these are the exact people who should not be watching porn. You will feel much better if you can get to a healthy state. In just a few weeks, you will notice benefits coming in. When you get to a certain point, quitting becomes easier because of the increased energy and mental focus. Mental fallacies when quitting. When quitting addiction, there are many fallacies and biases people have that hold them back. Let's address some of them now. Do not discount away the future. Because you are not experiencing it now, it does not mean you should dismiss the future. You should have a vision for and focus on creating the best possible future you can for yourself. When you look back on the past, you do not wish that you had spent more time watching porn or masturbating. In a year from now, you hope that you will not watch porn. Any addict knows that they wish they didn't do certain behaviors in the past, and they hope that they won't in the future. But the present often weighs more heavily, and the impulse in the moment dominates any thought of future consequences. It is never too late to change that thinking. Make it your mission, your life's goal, to make this change that will change everything. At this moment, nothing else matters besides getting rid of addiction. Once you succeed, everything else will fall in place. Your perception of the world will change. Let's take a different angle and approach the problem from an accounting perspective. Think about how much a lifetime of happiness is worth. Would you pay $100,000 if you could be happy for the rest of your life? How about $1 million? If you had the money, obviously you would make this purchase. Money is truly nothing without quality of life. What about the opposite? Would you pay $1 million to avoid a lifetime of misery? Again, the answer is obvious. The truth is that nothing matters unless you have some reasonable baseline quality of life that you are meeting first. Quitting porn will do just that. Give you a lifetime of happiness. But if you don't quit, it will give you a lifetime of misery. And quitting porn is free. If you think that being happy is worth $1 million to you, then you should quit porn. All you have to do is stop watching porn, and that would be the same effect as making $1 million. Financially, quitting porn also gives you the ability to make more money. It frees up time, gives you more energy, gives you the mental drive and focus to achieve what is necessary. Starting now, take some time to store up your sexual energy. Then harness your energy to achieve something big. Obviously, quitting alone will not make your life perfect, in all aspects. You will still have up and down days, but the ups will be higher, and the lows will also be higher. You will be more able to handle difficulties head-on, rather than facing them on an unclear mind after you have numbed yourself. Quitting will help you get towards that path. Forget the sunk cost fallacy. The fact that you have wasted years of your life with porn, or have struggled with addiction, is irrelevant going forward. No matter the situation you find yourself in, you have to think clearly about what the best decision in the current position is. For porn addiction, no matter your past struggles, the best thing to do is quit. Companies who have put money into a project are often unwilling to write it off as a loss and will push forward even when the prospects do not look good. Investors of those companies cling too much to the price of the stock at which they entered the market and are less willing to sell their position at a loss even when it is the right thing to do. Gamblers who lose money will try to chase that loss back, only to keep losing. In all these situations, people end up even worse off because of the bad past situation they had already put themselves in. Act in your best interest at this very moment. Sure, it would have been better to have quit earlier or not gotten into the habit, but now, the best time to quit is now. It's never too late. Thoughts of the past should not influence the best decision for you going forward. Before, you may have not known what porn might lead to or the consequences it would have on your life. This is nothing to beat yourself up over. Take the past as a lesson to learn from, when you had to experience the struggle because you didn't know better at the time. This will give you the motivation and an understanding of your priorities to quit. Don't look back with regret. Be positive and focus on the future. Quit immediately. As time goes on, neural pathways become strengthened. As you get older, it becomes harder to break bad habits. Additionally, the sooner you quit, the sooner you get to enjoy the benefits of being free from addiction. End of section 1.